Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. I am pleased, honored, super excited to have Udit Naik with me here today, founder of Zeppelin, or rather, Nimble Zeplin, limited partner of 7BC Venture Capital, and a member of New Fund Venture Group, a venture capital leader. Super excited to have you on here, Udit, and thanks so much.
Thanks, Skip. Thanks for having me, and it's definitely a pleasure being on the show.
Oh, fantastic.
Looking forward to this conversation here.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, I always kind of start with people's origin stories. So if you would just kind of share a little bit of background about who you are and how you came to get involved in venture capital.
Sure. So originally, I'm from India. Grew up in the city of Mumbai, and I'm part of that generation that started pursuing professional as well as academic opportunities abroad. So, prior to my generation, it was not really possible financially or logistically for people to do it. But, during my generation, we saw a lot of people actually consider that and leave India. So after I got my engineering degree in computer engineering, I thought, okay, you know what, let's give this a shot and see where life takes me. And I came to University of Maryland to pursue master's in computer science. And this was in the mid 90s. And as soon as I graduated, we hit the pre-Y2K frenzy. And that was right about the time when Oracle was moving very hard or pushing very hard to get customers to move off of their legacy systems and utilize Oracle products. And their whole selling proposition was that, hey, you don't want the Y2K to cause disruption. So if you're going to spend money and investment in making changes, may as well use the newer generation products. So I started working for them, and it was predominantly traveling all the time, going to different customers, and having a knowledge of the entire repertoire of Oracle products that Oracle was selling. So it was very, very intense because there were many times when Oracle would drop us on customer sites where customers were going through some severe problems with the Oracle products. And our job was to go and not only fix the problems, but also convert the customer from a grumpy one to a happy one. Now, the challenge there was that back then, people were not used to seeing foreigners come and tell them what they needed to do on their systems. So that was an additional challenge that was stacked on to me. But I think, I was able to overcome all those hurdles. And with every customer that I ended up meeting, at the end of the session, not only were the problems fixed, but then I had someone who had converted from being a complete xenophobic to somebody who said, oh, well, I had no idea about these, the different cultures, and I had made a friend. So this continued up until Y2K, and then after Y2K, obviously, the whole e-commerce .com, frenzy picked up. So now it was, a completely different philosophy of implementation, where now being competitive was very important because customers had gone past one challenge. Now they wanted to understand, okay, how do we end up adopting this technology to become really fast because our competitors are doing it. So I did that for another 3 years. And then after 9/11, obviously travel ended up becoming very, difficult. And by then I had spent almost like 6 to 6.5 years with Oracle, and I've done the same thing again and again. And I thought, okay, it's time for a change. And I went to work for Oracle customers because one of the things that I had never experienced was that I would always go and fix the problems and let the customer then take it forward. And then I would never, see them again unless something drastic happened. But then when I started working for Oracle customers, now I was part of the daily grind. I was part of the day-to-day minutia. What exactly goes on every day, all the politics that exist in a typical corporate workspace environment, initiatives that take very long to get approved because people don't have the money, and at the same time there are no benefits. So it was a great experience because then that helped me understand that not every innovative idea is palatable for the customer. Right. So when you're selling any kind of software product, you're always trying to pitch in that, hey, this is great, and because we have built it, you have to use it. But And that doesn't really work, all the time because it has to have some tangible benefits. So I've worked for these companies, and I think one of the benefits I got from that experience was that both the companies that I worked for had acquisition-related environments. So it exposed me to a situation where, how do you navigate situations where if you have acquired a company and you have to collaborate with people that could potentially end up losing their jobs, how do you get their cooperation? And at the same time, if you want to cut down on costs and different companies are using different systems, how do you decide which one to use? And then how do you convince people to continue using it? So very, very different set of problems to address. And at the same time, had very limited resources and limited means because it's basically a typical corporate environment. So I did that for almost like a decade. And after that, I realized that every decade I had done something different. So it was now time to do something completely different. And I ended up looking at what have I not done so far. And pre-sales and customer success was something that I'd never done in my life.
Okay.
And I would always see all these sales reps who would come in to sell products, and I would always never have like a very high opinion about them because I would always be like, hey, yeah, he's expressing concern and he wants to talk to me, but he just wants to sell and he wants to close the deal, and then I'm not going to see that person again. But when I started working with the sales teams of the companies that I was employed with, I had a renewed respect for these individuals. And it was predominantly because it is not easy to sell. And every day you wake up with a reset button because it's not like, you have something that happened the day before that you can continue, moving on. And the worst part is dealing with rejection. And it's a very bitter pill to swallow, and it's not for everyone, but I highly recommend everyone to kind of go through it because
Yes.
that helps you build a very different kind of a character. So I had the best times working with sales reps. I learned a lot. Most of the sales reps that I worked or partnered with had decades of experience in technology. I mean, these were like ex-IBM, ex-Microsoft, people who had kind of gone through different trends in technology, and they were like old school people who really put a lot of emphasis on values and how you should treat a customer, and it's not transactional, it's more of a relationship
Yes.
based approach. And obviously, by my experience having been on the other side of the fence as a customer, I could actually share a lot of my experiences with them and tell them that, hey, if you are doing this and that is wrong, because if I was a customer, and if you would have done this, I would have not really been happy. So it was a good, mutual beneficial experience. Yeah, so I did that for almost 10 years. And then last year I decided that, okay, now it's time for another shift.
Uh-huh.
And this time around, I looked at what have I not done before. And I think the first thing that jumped at me is that I haven't gone to work for myself.
Very
And,
cool.
it was a very difficult decision because once you have gotten used to a paycheck for 30 years, the prospect of jumping in unknown waters and not really having a guarantee it's not for the meek. So I did that, and obviously the learning has been exponential in the last year. So everything that I learned in the 30 years, I think I've learned a lot more in the past 1 year.
Wow.
But one of the things that I wanted to do was about 10 years ago, when I moved to San Diego, I got involved with angel investment. Just because I wanted to diversify my investments. And I got to meet a lot of young founders who, had started companies, and these are like individuals that haven't really even put in mileage from an employment perspective, and they were like, putting everything at stake and going out on their own. And many of them were failing because they were not making the right decisions, and they didn't have that kind of corporate experience that would have otherwise reinforced their wholesaling proposition. So I thought that, okay, I'm going to help only those companies that are financially strapped and that are, that have less than like 60 to 70 people in the company.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to do it on a fractional basis.
Okay.
which means that I'm not going to go there and camp out for years and just kind of keep on billing the customer. I'm just going to go there, help them, and then get out. And I decided to focus on just complete flexibility. So that way, it's not like there was always a pressure that, hey, I got to, now that I'm paying for this guy, I need to make use of this person.
Sure.
It was more that, okay, you tell me what is the problem. Are you willing to commit your time? Because, I can help you, but then it's your team that will have to do it. And it's been going, it's definitely had a rough start, just because selling is not easy, as you know. And every day you take small wins and you keep moving forward.
No, very
So
good.
here I am, I think, definitely looking forward to it. Still not ready to throw in the towel. I think, I think it's, as I said, like the interaction with the sales reps that I had in the past definitely helped me come to one realization that every day is a groundhog day. You have to hit the reset button, start. You have to mentally get yourself, in the, you have to get the game face on and then go at it. And then at the end of the day, you just, as long as you put in all the efforts that you could, that's all you can do.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, we talked a little bit before we hopped on here, just to kind of demystify for people, how do you get involved in venture capital? Like if someone asked you that question, how would you advise them?
Yeah, so I think every state has angel investment groups. Some states actually have a lot more. So, like for example, California, New York, even Florida, for that matter, and
Mhm.
now Texas and Washington are also coming up with a lot of different angel investment groups. These groups are what we call as kind of democratic groups, in the sense that you give your money to the group, but then you are involved in the process of actually deciding whether you should invest in that group or not. So all you have to do is just find out these groups and then reach out to them, because most of these groups are not managed by people who are running after individuals to get the investments. For most part, these groups are, a bunch of 15, 20 people that had like a network, they got started and they put in their money and now they're investing. But it's not like they are not going to refuse new money if that comes in. So if in your state or in your city, if you find some angel investment groups, you search online, and if you reach out to them, they'll be more than happy to take you in.
Oh, very good.
And the angel investment, contributions or funding are also on a smaller denominations.
Mhm.
So it's not like, just investing millions and millions of dollars. It's usually like $250,000 to $500,000, which is what like a pre-seed or seed company needs just to keep things moving. So
Okay.
between like 15, 20 people, it comes to like, around $5,000, $6,000, depending on, what the check size is. But it's
Okay.
a great learning experience, and it's not for like the uber rich or the ultra elite or ultra wealthy. I mean, it's anybody can get in. The only thing is that you're never going to see that money when you need it.
Right.
You have to be mentally ready for that. It's not like you give the money and then next year you have some kind of a payment that you need to make for any kind of house related expense or marriage or education. Yeah, you're not getting that back.
Uh-huh.
And the odds of returns are also it's almost as good as Vegas for that matter.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, you're helping an entrepreneur, first of all, get started. If you believe in something really strongly, so like let's say if you believe in like cure for cancer or something like that, then that helps you feel good that hey, you're funding something that is directly related to solving a bigger problem. And then you get better at identifying what investments are worth diving into and what are some of the lemons that people come up with that's not really worth getting in.
Mhm.
And especially these days with the whole AI frenzy, everybody wants to do something with AI, but that's when you need to be a little bit cautious. Yeah.
Yeah. Any particular strategies for you personally that have proven effective for identifying or capitalizing on high growth opportunities?
So I look at realistic projections from sales perspective, because many of these founders that come in, their initial sales are based on their network of contacts that they had and they tapped into them, and that that's the way to go about getting started. But then if they get like 4 clients and they get like $500,000 in revenue, they feel that, oh, I could do this in 3 months. So now for the next 9 months, I just have to repeat it. And I'll make like $2 million. That's not the way it works. So I look at people who are grounded and who are upfront and say that, hey, this is where we are. Now we're going to build a team, and this is the max that we can hit this year, and this is the minimum that we can hit this year. So that realism definitely helps. I also stay away from people who say that, okay, we are going to go to IPO,
Uh-huh.
and you ask about exit strategy, because that's what we want to know, like how soon can we get our returns back? And any founder that say that, yeah, next year Series A and after that Series B and then IPO, we just stay away from that, because that's not.
Uh-huh.
It's great to have that dream, but I think statistics say otherwise. That very like 1% or half a percent ever make it to the IPO level.
Yeah.
And then from a technology perspective, I especially prefer technologies that are solving problems that do not have any kind of regulatory or kind of administrative bottlenecks.
Okay.
Just because you don't really know so like for example, biotech, pharma. First of all, I don't have enough knowledge in those areas. But secondly, there's just a lot. You have like privacy and things like that. So a lot can go wrong. And first of all, you don't know anything about that space, and a lot could go wrong. So you're better off just not touching.
Yeah.
And then anything that is consumer tech that is geared to the Gen Zs and is affordable, I prefer that,
Okay.
because it's very easy to market. You don't have to pick up the phone and call a customer, and you basically just go on social media and you can advertise about the product, and it will get picked up, and you have like all these different ways of evangelizing the product. So I prefer that. But the best thing is that you get all kinds of businesses that come asking for money. And when you're part of a network, what ends up happening is that you may not have the expertise, but somebody else might have the expertise. And that
Mm.
person can say that, hey, you know what, just hold my hand, walk with me. I think this is good. We'll make some money out of it. Yeah.
Oh, very good. How about as far as challenges go? What are some of the biggest challenges you've faced while building businesses, and how you've overcome those?
So I guess, I mean, for me personally, this is the first time I have
Mhm.
ventured into forming a business. But I think it has taken very long to get to this stage, and it has predominantly been when we were growing up. I think the whole financial security and the importance of having a job was so drilled down into our heads that
Uh-huh.
taking any risks was always considered that, hey, you are going to fail, so don't even bother taking that risk. And do you want to lose all these, you want to lose like a strong paycheck that you're getting every 2 weeks, and just venture out in something that you have absolutely no idea about? So that fear was the biggest challenge. And it's basically the fear of unknown. And it took a while, because after seeing so many people do this, and a lot of people fail, but then there are people who succeed, you're still looking at people who fail. You're never looking at people who succeed. So you always
Mhm.
think, oh no, maybe I might be that guy. I don't want to do this. So that has been quite a difficult one to overcome.
Absolutely. How about just coming from India, coming to the US, just our free market system here and true capitalism? In what ways has embracing the free market benefited you in your business model or your
I
investment
I
philosophy?
think there is no other country in the world that I would rather be in than the United States. I mean, I can hands down, even if I were to go broke, I would rather be broke here
Uh-huh.
than broke anywhere else. Because if you have an idea and if you're willing to work for it, this country makes it, less challenging for you to get started. Like there are no bureaucratic hurdles there to go through. There are so many assistant programs. I mean, it's basically meant to help promote entrepreneurship and do some good for the world. And I cannot emphasize enough for people who always complain what is wrong with the country, that, hey, go live in some other country and see how things are, and then come back and say the same thing. But I think it's important to have this capitalistic uh, philosophy and culture, because that's the only way you're going to promote innovation. That's the only way you're going to help other countries and other entities and other cultures actually come up as well. And even from the investment perspective, we find so many companies that are based out in Europe and Far East Asia that are clamoring to start selling in this country
Mm-hmm.
because they know this is where people have the money to, kind of purchase the products, and people have the money to spend. So how do you get to that stage? Well, it's only through capitalistic, approaches.
Oh, very good. How about any, just kind of looking at investment opportunities, any trends or opportunities you see? You mentioned AI, but that you see out there that you're most excited about, or you're trying to position yourself for?
I think so. Definitely looking at climate tech,
Mm,
because that is something that is not getting that much love, but it's a serious problem, and we definitely need to address it. Ag tech is another one,
sure.
because what ends up happening is that it gets abandoned by investors because, unlike selling to normal companies where you just pick up the phone and you call, and then you get a response and then you have a lead. With ag tech, I mean, you're looking at people who are based in the most remote parts. 9 times out of 10, they're not going to pick up the phone because they're not even close to the phone.
Uh-huh.
And you have to go there and talk to them and talk about xenophobic. I mean, they probably haven't seen people from other states, forget other
Yeah,
countries, right? So
right.
so I think the amount of consumption that we are going through on a food basis, and just the sheer amount of challenges that these people have, is definitely worth looking into. And it's not getting the kind of attention that it should from the investment community. So I like that as well. And then beyond that, I think everything else is just, it's the same thing but a different flavor. So I mean, look at AI. Every third company you feel like, okay, I thought I saw this before. It's the same thing, just slightly tweaked or modified.
Hmm.
But time and again, you come across some company that is doing something really different, and is not harping so much about AI that you feel that, okay, what if you were to use AI, how better could this product be? So I like those kind of companies.
Okay. Yeah. How about when you've talked a lot about founders here, when you're looking at founders, um, as far as just kind of leadership goes, any leadership traits or things you look for, and again, in founders that you're investing in, or even looking at yourself, leadership lessons that you've learned over the years?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we always like to see in a founder is the willingness to let somebody else uh, take the reins and run with it.
Mm,
And the reason I'm saying this is because, I mean, 9 times out of 10, I'm dealing with founders who are technical. I mean, they have a technical background and now they have come up with a product, and they feel they can do everything. Like they can build a product, they can sell it, they can manage a company, and one of the questions we ask is that, are you open to having a CEO of the
hmm.
company? And if the founder said that, no, why should I get a CEO? I am the perfect CEO. We stay away from those people, because that
Sure.
in itself shows that, okay, you're not willing to understand or look at a perspective that is unknown to you. And then from a leadership perspective, we always look for founders who actually have done a great job building like a strong network of not just employees, but like advisors.
Okay.
And the way it turns out is, obviously you have to go out there, you have to socialize, you have to kind of make sure people know who you are. And I could be wrong in judging a person from a leadership perspective, but if there are 15 people who basically endorse that person, then for me that is a good stamp of approval.
Oh, very
So,
good.
so I like that. And then at a personal level, I think I used to have roles where I was leading people, and then I think at some point in time I got a little bit kind of tired of keeping up with people's expectations, right?
Uh-huh.
Because I cannot bring a change to everybody's lives every year, and you have to work within the confines of the business that you are working in. So I decided to kind of not lead, but try to reflect inwards and see how I could, be a stronger person and be a leader for myself. Like, so I have this voice in my head that basically switches between a leader and a person who's following, and that definitely helps quite a bit. And when I help these companies out, I kind of toggle between those two voices and see what really works for them.
Oh, that's very good. How about looking at just like core values or company culture? How important is that as you're investing or even just building the business?
Yeah, no, I think so. We definitely put a lot of emphasis on the core problem that people are trying to solve, and then what are the values that they are going to stick to, in order to get those the companies going. The main thing that we look for is, are people open to adjusting their expectations just to meet with the values that they have indicated they are going to follow, right? And when we find that flexibility, we understand, okay, for them, values are more important, and we want to make sure that we are putting all our money behind these founders to make sure that they succeed. So, for example, like there are some companies that say that, hey, we are not going to compromise on our standards when it comes to the kind of product that we build. And there are instances where customers come and tell them that, hey, we don't like this. We would like you to change this for us. Now, if their value, one of their values is that, hey, customer satisfaction is our core value, and if they are not really tweaking that, then we feel that, hey, how are you going to, if one customer is asking you for some change and you're not able to make it, how are you going to deal with all these other customers that you feel you're going to get in your bag? So it's definitely important, but oddly, I'm seeing that the new generation doesn't emphasize that much on values.
Uh-huh.
I think for them, it's something that is good to have, but it's not something that you need to follow. So
Okay.
we feel
Interesting.
that a lot of the younger generation, I think they have that in their list of things that they should talk about, but they don't channel their journey around that specific aspect.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
and we get a lot of we get a diverse range of founders from an age perspective, and we
Okay.
have seen that the older they are more focused on values, but they are very resilient to making change.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And then the younger ones, at a drop of a dime, they can easily make a change, but then they're like, okay, you know what, to hell with the values. I knew I was going to do it, but now I cannot stick to it. So
Very interesting. Yeah, I think those trends do play across those
yeah.
generational lines for sure. How about when you're looking at like, a founder's open to a new CEO or open to bringing people on the team to, surround himself or herself with experts, people that are smarter than them in different areas. How do you look at, or what's your approach to attracting high performance leaders into your companies or onto teams?
So usually what ends up happening is when we meet these founders, they already have a very small team that they have built based on their previous jobs or previous relationships that they've had. And if we feel that there is some founder that could use some help, in our group, we have plenty of people that have played those roles and are now currently retired. So the first thing
Okay.
obviously is to have them chat with these individuals, and if they want to take their guidance for like a short period of time on a monthly basis, and that's how it starts. Otherwise, we reach out to people like you. I mean, like you're in my network. Tomorrow, if somebody were to have some kind of a need, I would just say, hey, go talk to Kip. Specializes in a specific category of like C-level leadership, and we kind of connect them, and then we independently have a pulse into what's going on, because then we can ask you that, hey, do you think this person is going to gel with somebody that you place, and do you think there's going to be some kind of a personality issue that we need to be aware of? Because at the end of the day, it's all about protecting your investment, right? So
Sure.
we want to make sure that we trust you and we trust your opinions, and at the same time, you have a broader Rolodex of people than we do, and it becomes much faster, much easier. And then sometimes it happens for the benefit of the company that we never even thought that we could, get. Because many of the CEOs have their own connections and they can
Sure.
open up other doors that we never thought we would be able to. But yeah, we have like around 10, 15 names across the country that, depending on where the founder is, we just say that, hey, go talk to this guy
Okay.
or girl, and we connect them.
Oh, very good. Similarly, any practices that you guys employ as far as just ongoing growth and development of employees or leaders in your companies?
So thanks to, the YouTube, phenomena, there's no shortage of things that one can learn on their own.
Sure.
So in my previous companies, we used to get these leadership development consultants who would come in, really conduct very nice programs that you could participate in. But then off lately, we have seen that even that has become like a luxury now.
Okay.
And, because obviously it costs money. And part of the problem is that now with everybody being virtual, it's tough to, create a nice program that can make everybody interactive and not have them getting distracted while the program is going on. But typically, like when I was employed and working for companies, that's what we used to do, is just have really state-of-the-art programs that were created by people who had a very strong reputation in the industry, and have them come and, coach us. And then from an investment perspective, I mean, we don't get involved in telling the founder on what he or she needs to do from a leadership perspective or what kind of program, unless they come asking for a
Sure.
suggestion. Yeah, we don't really interfere because they don't like it. They like to keep things, like to have a barrier between you give us the money and we'll do the rest,
Uh-huh.
interfere in day-to-day affairs.
Yeah. No, I guess that brings a really good point. How, and you've started to answer it here, but as a venture capital investor, how involved are you in the operations of the business, or is it really, we'll write a check, step back, we're here as a resource if you need us, but we're just going to trust you? Like how involved do you
So,
actually get in the business?
so if you look at some of the big successful companies that have, gone and, done their IPOs, they have been funded by these investment houses that actually have a huge uh, army of people that help them operationally.
Uh-huh.
And what ends up happening is that if you are a founder and if you were to go looking for money, you have a better chances of success if you go with them, even though you will have to part with a significant chunk of your company.
Sure.
But the minute you go there, you're going to be, showered with all kinds of, benefits from not just people, but even like within their portfolio of companies. Let's say if you're looking for some server or infrastructure related, work, then they have a, portfolio company that does the same thing, and it does for a fraction of the cost. So now you don't have to go to AWS or any other big vendor. You can just go to that company. And similarly, if that company needs some service that you're offering, then that company comes to you. So now the money stays within
Sure.
that umbrella, and it keeps on circulating, and the all the bad things that you would have normally discovered after the fact, now you're seeing it from the top.
Uh-huh.
So that I think really helps. In our case, from an angel investment perspective, we expect founders to send us quarterly reports
Okay.
to see how things are going. And I'm part of what we have at New Fund. It's called Portfolio Health and Support Group. And part of the responsibility of that group is to review the reports, and then come up with an assessment of whether this company is in deep trouble or if this company is going to, make it out alive. Um, with that said, we still do not have the liberty to go in and say that, hey guys, this is what you're doing wrong, or this is what you need to fix, unless the founder says that, hey, I'm in trouble, can you guys help?
Okay. No, very
But
good.
but I do feel that if you feel very strongly about your product, And if you feel that you have a great idea, then going to investment houses that actually have a broader repertoire of companies will definitely help you a lot more.
Oh, that's
Because
very, very
then,
good advice.
yeah, you'll accelerate much faster than you would if you were to go with smaller. And it's partly because sometimes people feel that, hey, I don't want to part with, bulk of my company. Like I want to retain the ownership.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go to these big homes because they're just going to. And sometimes founders also feel, I think they have that misconception that if we go with these big investment institutions and they are going to interfere in day-to-day matters, I'm no longer the pilot of the plane. Somebody else is going to come in. That's not true. I mean, you're basically being watched and you're being advised more frequently than you would like. But why not take that advice and why not? Because at the end of the day, they are not going to give you bad advice. They just want their investment to, become big. So I think it's much easier that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can be 100% owner of an entity, or you could be a, fractional percentage owner of a 1000x company. So you have
Yeah.
to just kind of decide what you want and what comes with that.
And most of these founders, I mean, I find it a little bit odd, but they don't go through the family and friends route,
Okay.
which in my opinion is actually much easier. Because hey, if your close circle doesn't believe in what you do, and very rarely do I come across that situation where they've said that, okay, for the first 3 years, we borrowed from my uncles, aunts, friends, whatever. And then I've also not seen enough examples of where founders have put in their own money.
Okay. Interesting.
So by own money, I guess the closest you can get is where the founder worked without a paycheck for a couple of years, which I mean
Uh-huh.
you can argue that it is your own money. But now the founder needs like $500,000 because he wants to grow.
Uh-huh.
So if you want that much money, then why don't you start with your relatives and friends and see if you can avoid kind of parting with your company. But
For sure.
they just feel that, okay, let's go get some money from venture capital, and that's when they start giving away part of their company.
Okay. How about challenges, headwinds? What are some of the biggest challenges that you're facing in, building your business or even in your portfolio companies? What are the biggest challenges
So
they're
right now,
facing
I
out
mean,
there?
I'm old school. I don't like this whole virtual environment
Uh-huh.
as we now. I mean,
Yeah.
during COVID, it definitely made sense. And what's happening is that everything is becoming very transactional.
Hmm.
So, you come on a call, it's only for that specific purpose. You don't really know enough about that person after the call ends. If you're lucky, that person might come on the computer, I mean, on the camera. For
Right.
9 out of 10, they are, behind, the cameras are not on. So you don't really know if they're paying attention to what you're saying, that they're getting distracted by their phones or whatever the case may be. And one of the things that has become even more prevalent is dealing with uncertainty right now is not something that this generation is used to. Because if you actually think about it, if you're stuck in traffic, you open the app and you will know that, hey, this issue is going to get fixed in like 4 miles.
Uh-huh.
You don't need to worry about it. If you're stuck in bad weather, you open some app and it'll tell you that, hey, just suffer this thing for another 5 minutes and it's going to blow past. If you order something, you know exactly where that package is. So you know that waiting is not going to be for that long.
Uh-huh.
And I think that is now affecting all these young founders that we see. So they cannot deal with the uncertainty, right? So in order for them to kind of understand that, hey, nothing is certain and you will never know, you'll have to wait, is the biggest thing that we struggle with. And I also personally used to struggle with the same concept for a long time, but now I kind of come to terms that, hey, we got spoiled with all the technology that we had at our fingertips, and nobody's going to tell me that, hey, tomorrow all my problems will end. Like I'll start getting the calls back to all the people that I have. So that's definitely an interesting challenge to kind of deal with. And it's not a challenge; it's just something that we brought up, on ourselves because of everything that we got used to.
Yeah, it's very hard to be an entrepreneur if you can't handle challenges and risks and uncertainty and pivoting and making quick decisions and
Yeah,
making
and
decisions
that's
without all the information. I mean,
yeah, no, and I mean, you've been there for longer than I have. I mean, this is just my first rodeo, and it's still fairly fresh, but it's just not. At some point in time, you go to bed thinking, okay, it's tomorrow the day when I just say, okay, this is it. I don't think I can handle this, it's causing too much. And then on the second notion, it's like once you get one customer, it's not like you're done, right? I mean,
right.
it's you're doing the same thing again. So I'm just waiting for that situation where it becomes uh, so normal that it's like, okay, yeah, big deal. It happens. Let's move on. And I think I'm getting there slowly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm in, I'm in this entrepreneur group and we just had a summit, we call it, where we got together in person. And I mean, there's people with, billion-dollar companies, multi-$100 million companies on down. And I mean, the common theme is thinking at some point the uncertainty will go away. You'll feel comfortable. And the truth is that never happens. And you have to
Right.
get comfortable with the fact that that never happens. And then you can succeed and, make your decisions, pivot, grow your business, scale things, just knowing that it'll never happen where you have all the information, where you feel the risks are gone, the uncertainty's gone. It never happens, no matter how big, no matter how successful you
Sure.
get.
And the timing is also something that you can never predict, right? That,
Right.
it's not like you can plan something and expect it to happen. So we have situations where founders wait till the last minute to raise another round, and they feel that, okay, you know what, this should come in fairly quickly, but it doesn't happen that way because you might different investment institutions have different ways of evaluating companies. And sometimes they just, close their checkbooks because it's some time of the year where they don't want to make any investments, or so they just drag their feet, and that causes, more problems. So founders end up having situations where now they are kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel when it comes to their, money in the bank, and then the employees get the wind of it, and then they start looking for other, positions, and now all the intellectual capital is now slowly leaving. So they kind of literally go very crazy and hit the panic button. And and it's interesting at that point in time they look towards their family and friends to see if they can bail them out. Like, okay, you're doing this the other way around. That shouldn't have been the case. But yeah, so that uncertainty definitely creates more havoc for them than I would have thought.
Yeah. How about just kind of measuring the broader economy and economic impacts? How is that influencing your investment decisions or the portfolio companies?
So I think in the last 12 months, we have definitely become very, very selective.
Okay.
I think we went from being extremely generous and giving, having all kinds of exceptions when we were evaluating companies to now being so specific that I think 9 out of 10 companies get, kicked out. Um, I think the economy is definitely on everybody's minds.
Hmm.
And it's not, it has nothing to do with the election or whatever. I think it's just the the euphoria that you see in the stock market and this comfort level that people have that, hey, nothing can ever go wrong, everything will keep going up, you're always going to have AI selling products and people are going to spend money, but yet the reality is that it's still getting more and more difficult for an average person to kind of make ends meet. And obviously you're aware of the whole inflation situation, but
Yes.
the discretionary spending that we used to see before, we don't see that anymore. And by that I mean, like, even with the companies that we invest in, like, we used to get companies in the past that had a little bit more, from a salary perspective, they were paying themselves a little bit more than what they are paying now,
Okay.
because they're trying to stretch the dollars as much as they can before they go back and borrow more, because
Sure.
now the valuations are also being questioned. So my theory is that, we get a lot of founders who have had like multiple exits in the past. And I like to take a look at, okay, when were these exits? Like during what period? And if the founder has had multiple exits during the period where money was cheap, then
Mm.
for me that's not really it's not really an accomplishment, because when money was cheap, you could sell, like a hairbrush to a bald person, and that bald person would buy it because like, hey,
Yes.
I could always use a hairbrush, right? I mean, I don't know if I'm going to grow hair, but it would help to have this in my drawer. I think that's the situation where these people did end up selling their companies. Even if they did not have sales, there was always some other company willing to buy them out and offer whatever money that they wanted to. Now that's not possible. It's just people would rather get 5% in the bank than put it in something that is ultra risky, and the fact that they are never going to see it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Those exits when cash is cheap.
Yeah, and I mean, right now, like, a lot of people ask me about where they should put their money, and I always tell them that if your risk appetite is low, then I think fixed income is where I would put it right now,
Hmm.
because who's going to give you 5%? You just park it for a while and then see what happens next year, and then you can always, because it's very alarming to see people get excited about all these AI companies and Nvidia and all these real big bellwether names, but it's just so expensive that you don't want to put all your savings in something that you don't really know if it's going to continue going up. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. So kind of looking to the future, how do you plan to evolve your business strategies to continue to thrive in these changing economic landscapes?
So right now, I think because I'm doing consulting on a fractional basis. I do
Yeah.
see demand until the economy improves. Because right now, what's happening is that a lot of companies are laying people off, but they still need that expertise. But there's just no way to get it
Hmm.
on a short-term basis. So I do see that there is going to be a need until the economy picks up and companies feel comfortable having somebody uh, on their payroll who's not utilized 100%. But I also strongly believe that once people get used to this fractional notion of working, they probably may not beef up their workforce the way they used to before.
Hmm.
Like we're going, so we observe situations where, there was a time when people used to measure growth by the number of people that they had in the company. Like they would, in their slide decks, they would say, oh, in such and such year we had 10, then we grew to 20, and now we have 40 people. Now they are focusing more on the revenue.
Hmm.
And they are saying that we may not have gotten double the revenue, but we made 50% the revenue. We made 50% more this year than what we did last year with half the number of people.
Right.
So I think that is definitely a trend that we are seeing. And I feel that as long as that trend continues, I definitely have a shot at doing what I'm doing. And then the hope is that I get to that stage where I have enough clients where prospecting doesn't end up being that time consuming for me on a daily, monthly, weekly basis. Because right now
Yeah.
I'm in that phase where I spend most of my time prospecting, and I have some clients, but then it's not really a full-time gig.
Sure.
So let's see how that goes. And then, some of these things, the way they work out is that if there is a company that you really love what they're doing, and you like the leadership and you like the traction that they have, and if there is a spot for you to kind of contribute on a full-time basis, then that can also become a possibility down the road, if that's something that I would like to consider. But right now, that is not on my mind. I'm just going to continue moving forward with at least working for my.
Yeah. Oh, very good. How about looking back? What decision or actions would you say have been most pivotal in your success thus far?
So I think back when I started my career, obviously, as I mentioned before, it was that whole mindset of you got to go work for a company, and then you work hard and you rise up, and then you start accumulating all these titles. And at some point in time, I decided that that wasn't who I was, and I wasn't going to pursue my life around jumping the ladder and feeling good about that, hey, now I'm a director or I'm a VP or whatever. I focused more on getting experiences that would put me out of my comfort zone, and something that an experience that I would have enough chops to talk about after I was, done with it. And I focused on things that people would normally shy away from, because it was like, hey, if I do that, it's not like I'm going to get to this level that I'm trying to get at. So, I mentioned earlier that working with sales guys and going into pre-sales after having spent a lot of time in IT management, nobody does that,
Uh-huh.
because it's not, it's kind of looked down upon that, hey, why would you go and become like an engineer, pre-sales engineer? Like, that's like a demotion. But when you realize that you're thrown in front of strangers every day, asked to talk about a product that you never built, but an engineering team built, and then you need to connect with your audience in a very short period of time to the state where they actually believe when you tell them that this product is good for you, buy it. It takes a lot. I mean, it's not easy, and that only comes with experience. So for the thing that works for me is that because I've been in my customer shoes, I
Yes,
can always say
yes.
that, hey, look, I know where you're coming from. Years ago I was where you are, and they say yes, yes. So when I tell them that, okay, are you going through this? Are you having this? And they say yes. How did you know that? And that connection then just paves the way for success when it comes to closing the deal. So I do believe that, I think, depending on how your upbringing is, if you are always going to shoot for like that title or that jump, then there are a lot of other things that you're missing. Uh, and even at a personal level, it takes a lot to kind of go back in line and start all over again, just that there's a
Uh-huh.
different line now.
Yes.
And look at yourself and ask yourself that, hey, am I doing the right thing or not? So I think that definitely helped. And as I mentioned, every 10 years I've changed
Uh-huh.
something really different. And now it doesn't, change doesn't bother me. And I think adaptability is definitely the key as we get older, because things are much harder to understand as technology evolves.
Right.
And I would rather have somebody teach me rather than tell them that, hey, I have 2 degrees and I used to do this. And I meet a lot of people who always like to introduce themselves that I used to be a director here and a
I
VP
know, I
here.
know.
And I just tell them, okay, that's nice information to have, but right now, what is it that you're going to do that's going to help me? And I'm trying hard to teach my kids that as well, that it's okay. I mean, it's okay to aspire for those kind of things, but if you don't get it, that's not the end of it. I mean, there are other ways to kind of go about doing it.
Yeah.
It's
No,
funny, like I ride mountain bikes quite a bit, and
oh,
when you're starting from the bottom and you want to get to the hill, the top of the hill, there is no straight line. Like you have to go through a lot of, like you go up, then you go back down, then you have to climb back up again, and you always say that, hey, I didn't know that there were like 7 other inclines that I had to get to before I got to the top. But then it kind of gets you to different vistas and different viewpoints that you would have never, seen if you would have just taken the straight line, if there was one. So I always use that perspective to remind myself that it's okay. Keep going.
that is a phenomenal analogy for business and for life.
Yeah, I think every day you just take small wins, and if there is no win one day, then that's fine. I mean, you don't kill yourself over it. But
Uh-huh.
there are other things to appreciate, and I measured success based on, look at myself the last year, years before that, and yeah, I mean, I think I have a much better life than even last month. I mean, I have like things that I have right now that I didn't have last month. I have 4 customers that responded last month. I didn't have that.
Hmm.
And if I set a really high bar of success, then obviously I'm always going to be disappointed. But you take the small wins and you keep moving along.
Yeah. You just keep moving forward.
Yeah. Unless you have something else that's even better to do,
How
just keep doing this.
about looking at legacy? How do you think about working towards building a lasting legacy through your
Oh,
business ventures or just through your life personally?
I guess, I don't think I have I've hit that age in my life where I have to think about legacy.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Um, at least the one thing that definitely bothers me in this country is that I think we ignore the old people.
Mm. Yes.
Um, and I do, I mean, it's definitely at the bottom of my heart, I want to do something for that demographic. And I'm just trying to figure out how we can do it. Because I find that you get so much wisdom from that demographic in how one should conduct, one's life and not to beat yourself up. And the kind of struggles that they have gone through are completely different and much more impactful than what we are going through. Like we'll complain about, Wi-Fi speed and all kinds of very trivial things, but I mean, they have definitely gone through some major challenges. So I think from a legacy perspective, I mean, I don't know if am there yet, but I definitely want to do something where I can uh, educate the younger generation to take care of the old,
Yes. That's very good.
and you know, help them understand that yeah, maybe this old guy doesn't know how to text or doesn't know how to use the app, but he could definitely use some company, and go spend some time, and and they will appreciate it. And I think
Yeah.
that's definitely something. And these days, actually, just recently, I've been seeing a lot of older people working at Walmart,
Yes, absolutely.
Target, and just the sheer courtesy that they show when you leave. I'm like, okay, you know what? This was such a warm goodbye. And at that age, and sometimes my wife tells me that oh God forbid if if we have to do this at that age, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I would probably do it just so that I can get out and see
Yes.
people.
Yeah.
And I think they are not doing it for money. They're probably just bored and they want to come out, and it's if they're doing it for money, that's even worse because that's like sad. But
Yes.
they just seem very happy, and they wear the uniform, and they. So I think those kind of ethics and those kind of values is what I would like the younger generation to have and not forget.
Yeah.
And with all this, the socialistic ideas that the younger generation is bringing forward, I just feel that guys just hang on. I mean, this is not the right direction. And if you feel so strongly about socialist stuff, then take a look at your grandparents and see if you can hang out with them for a week without any technology, and come back and talk to us.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, and we look at like the blue zones, people are looking at longevity and what people are eating, or the studies on happiness, and just that people used to grow up in multi-generational homes or communities
absolutely. Yeah,
where it was people of all ages, and they really knew you, they loved you, they knew, your successes, your failures, things you struggle with, the things you were good at, but they loved you anyway. And people had strong self-esteem and they had a community around them, and there wasn't all
absolutely.
this mental health issues and insecurities, and we've just gotten so far away from that. And just taking the opportunity to go and spend time with older people, whether it's in your family or elsewhere, and you can just learn so many
And
lessons from those. And like you said with Walmart, I mean, the people that really have longevity have community and relationships, and they're with people and they're talking and laughing, and just having connections with other people rather than being so isolated.
it's you might find it interesting, but most of the companies that come to us, they don't address this demographic at all.
Mm-hmm.
The only companies that could potentially end up addressing this demographic are the ones that are in life sciences and biotech,
Sure.
but they are addressing some kind of a medical condition. It's not
Mm-hmm.
really old age person,
Yeah.
and I find that pretty interesting. And I guess the flip side to that argument, which a lot of my colleagues mention, is that there is no market in the sense that there is no guarantee that these old people will buy the product because they're frugal, and they're not going to. But it still revolves around making money and not really doing anything good,
Uh-huh.
right? So the young generation wants to come up with something that helps them make money, not let's do something for the old people that can help them improve their lives. I mean,
Yeah.
so I think that's what I definitely like to emphasize, and I'm constantly even educating my kids on not really discounting or disregarding old people. If they say something, there's some reason behind it, and
Right.
reflect on it.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll end with this. Just for yourself personally, what is your personal definition of success? Like, what does success mean to you?
I think, obviously success, there are many different ways of evaluating, you have your personal, professional, social. I just feel that if you have a better condition today, overall condition, whether it is, finances or mental, whatever, than what you had yesterday, then it is success.
Uh-huh.
And by that, what I mean is that, okay, if you were feeling down yesterday because things were not going right, and then you decided to do something, and today you just got a marginal gain, that is success. And I prefer not to have like really, like huge unachievable bars to feel happy, because I think that is, you're just setting yourself up for some serious, failure and
Huh.
mental, issues. So I feel that if you pick something that is achievable, attainable, measurable, and at the end, if you did not hit that specific parameter, I still think it's success, because now you're one step closer towards achieving it. Like yesterday, you hadn't even started.
Uh-huh.
And that's the way I look at it. And I just don't beat myself up by the notion of failure. I just feel that I think we have kind of become, I don't know at what point it happened, but we just became like a society where we just look at other people and we want to set the same bar for ourselves. And I read things about where people say, "Oh, I was so inspired by this guy. I'm going to do what he's doing." And I'm like, "Okay, you know what? There are different circumstances for that person. So if it doesn't work out for you, don't kill yourself. I mean, it's great to have some kind of a role model and go after it, but you have to live life, and every day is a new beginning and a new experience." So I think I had always set low bars for success, so that way I would always be happy. That's it.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's, if you follow that, then I think all these mental issues or mental health issues will probably not be around as much as you see these days. And
Absolutely.
it's getting so competitive that it's very easy to get swayed into setting like a really unachievable bar that defines success and happiness for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think happiness is a choice, and
Right. Absolutely. Yes.
you can either say that I'll be happy only if I'm successful, then there's definitely some disappointment right there that you
Yes.
can be ready for.
Well, good. Well, Udit, thank you so much. This has been an absolute pleasure. Phenomenal. I think everyone listening has learned so much, and thank you for opening yourself up and sharing, and really, really appreciate your time. Thank you
No,
very,
thanks
very
a lot.
much.
It was great, and wish you the very best. And I look forward to hearing, other individuals that you bring on your podcast and learning from their experiences as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so very much. All right.
Yeah.